can't see it all. You are live. Oh, I know. There we go. 6 o'clock. Say hello to people. Right. Hello. Hi. Hello, Hannah. Hello. It's only been a week. Already miss you. Miss you too. Right, we'll just I'll just look at my imaginary watch. People, half an hour or 30 minutes. No lie, I'm going to give them half a second. Hello, Melissa. Right. Good evening, everyone. I can't quite see very well. Sorry, I still need to fix my eyes. But good evening. Welcome to tonight's tasting. Tonight we are going to spend most of our time around the capital of Chile, Santiago, to taste wines or gems that I find from this region that tend to get overlooked because they're not particularly varieties or a style of wine that people necessarily associate with Chile. So I will apologize in advance now. There will be no Carmenere in this lineup. So we're going to start in the capital city, Santiago. We're going to head southeast into Maipo Valley. Once there, we're going to head further eastward to the Andean mountain range, particularly the foothills just before it. And it's here that we are going to start with our first winery, Vina Aquitania. Now these guys have about 4 winemakers involved since it's been found, or started in the middle of the 1984. 2 of the winemakers have originated from Bordeaux, and so have brought over their traditions and their great varieties such as Cabernet Sauvignon. They were later joined with the Chilean local, and then a couple of years later joined by the 4th Musketeer-led group from Champagne. Given that they have this beautiful ancestral relationship with France, even though this winery is quite young relatively, there's still a good connection and good traditions being played here. This wine here is 90% Cabernet Sauvignon, with the remaining 10% made up of Syrah. So Cabernet Sauvignon, if you've ever had it before as a red wine, which I'm sure you all have, quite dark and quite intense and quite concentrated in flavour. So it can be a little bit of a not really associated with rosé making, because we want to go for something that's fragile or something light in colour. To account for this extra colour and depth, they have opted to gently press the grapes to liberate a little bit of the juice and macerate for a short period of time. And the resulting wine has a beautiful pale, almost Provence-like colour to it, but with a kiss of pink throughout it from the Cabernet Sauvignon. Something that does make this quite different to rosés that you might be more familiar with from home is that because we're using Cabernet instead of Pinot Noir, the flavour that we're going to find will be more towards that red plum and cherry characteristics, less about the strawberries and cream. There's also a beautiful amount of acidity, and that's from being on those rolling foothills next to the mountain range. You get a beautiful cooling influence from the air descending downwards at night time, which is quite important to ensure they keep that fresh acidity alive, but also retain some of the more fragile, lighter flavours, particularly in those red fruit spectrums. Dry at 3 grams per litre, but it does definitely have a little bit more varietal sweetness coming through, which I think is fantastic. Now the next 2 wines that we have all come from around the same area. We're going to stick with Santiago, but we're going to head west to the coastline, to San Antonio and Casablanca. Now this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, and that if you were to continue walking or driving around the globe, you would find that you would be in the same areas such as Sydney, which can be quite hot. particularly if you're making something, in this case, a cold climate wine. And that's because we have this big icy body of water being drawn up from the Antarctica all the way up along the coastline of Chile. And this gives you that beautiful cooling influence, particularly for areas that are close to the coast. You also get a little bit of fog and mist in there as well, which just helps to keep everything all nice and fresh as well. Now this wine here is made from Casa Lapostolle, and it is a Chardonnay traditionally, but for 2017, which is the one that we have tonight, they have opted to really emphasize the cool climate characteristics and have put in 11% Semillon. This gives a little bit more of a sort of a body, a bit more fresh acidity, and helps to give us a little bit of those beautiful tropical flavors that we haven't quite got from the Chardonnay in this case. With this wine, it has had no malolactic fermentation, so we're not getting rid of that green acidity, we're retaining it, and has not seen any oak, so we're not looking at any oxidative characteristics through this, nor are we looking at vanilla or spicy notes from it as well. So it's almost, if you will, a Chablis-like style with a little bit more tropical kick to it. So if you give it a swirl and a bit of a look at it as well, you got that pale yellow kind of coloration to it, almost a bit of green tinge, and that's that Semillon coming through. On the nose, we've got those beautiful lychee tropical notes, but you do get a little bit of those green remnants characters coming through as well. If you think maybe like a Sauvignon Blanc, and a bit of that minerality and almost, I don't like to say it out loud because some people don't necessarily agree, but that wet stone element comes through. On the palate, beautiful bucket loads of acidity. Makes that real sort of stone fruit minerality tones quite well and quite fresh and vibrant, which is fantastic. Our last wine, which is from Casa Marin, is further south into San Antonio Valley and is a Pinot Noir. In this wine, they have gone to make a style that is more about the fruit characteristics or the complexity that Pinot Noir naturally has in these cooler climates. They have opted to only put about 50% of this wine in oak, and when they have, it has been used French oak for up to 14 months. So we get a little bit of those vanilla and spicy characters in there, which is great. Any malolactic fermentation in this wine has been spontaneous, so we do get that beautiful fresh acidity, but a little bit of that creamy note coming through as well. All up, we should be expecting all those lovely complex Pinot Noir characteristics with just a subtle oak spice integrated into it. And if you've got this at home, honestly, give it a swirl and a sniff. It's fantastic. Red cherries, strawberries that you'd expect from Pinot Noir is there in spades, but there's this really intense, savoury, graphite, mushroom character that comes through the wine as well. And that oak element is there, but it's more of just a little extra layer underneath of the spicy vanillian characteristic coming through as well. Bucket loads of complexity for a Pinot Noir that is only about $25. If you look around the world at that price point, often it can be one kind of element, fruit driven or just savoury. This has all of it in spades. And if you think about the winery's history in 2000, all those experts and her colleagues were trying to discourage her from starting the winery up in the first place because the cool climate conditions were not really something that they would associate with making a good Pinot Noir. I'm pretty happy that she has stuck around though. So, 3 Chilean treats, no Carnier, Rosé in there, Chardonnay in there because Chardonnay is brilliant, and a Pinot Noir. Must-haves, give it a go sometime soon. If you've got any other suggestions, throw them around, let people know. I'm going to get Reese to come and help stop my live chat. If you do have any questions, so feel free to fire them through. Until then, see you next week as we explore 3 winter wines from Australia. Thank you. Take care.